Hi, everyone, and welcome to TF's first discussion of October. We have Miranda, who is a trainer and nutritionist here at TF, and we want to go over a lot of nutrition tips today and go over meal prep, which she's amazing at. And if you have ever had the opportunity to work with her, you know that she's incredible at putting together yummy meals that still taste really good. She has lots of great ideas on how to meal prep as well. So be interactive. We want these discussions and educational seminars to be interactive. They're for you guys and to help inform you, to help offer tips and help you reach your goals. So these are really going to be something that we want to continue. So if you have a question here, we can see you below. And if you guys have thoughts or anything that you want to add, I think it just kind of helps to bring the discussion more to life and give you more of what you want. So I'm going to let Miranda take it away. Have fun.
Hi, guys. Good to be on here again. It's been a while since I've done one of these talks or seminars. We used to host these quite often here at TF, and I always wanted to take the one that was based on nutrition or meal prep because that's something that's near and dear to my heart. So I'm going to kind of go over some things that have been working for me with the craziness of 2020 and some meal prep, simple ideas that me and my team have been going over as well. Nutrition-based information all right up front here. If you have questions as we go, I will try to refer to them or use them. I like the interaction. I like it when people ask questions. So if you have any as I'm talking or that you want to say, you can type them in below. So first off, what a crazy year it's been, right? And I think that something we can all agree with is how do we adapt to this new way of normal within this last year so far, or the last 8-9 months. So when COVID hit, I think a lot of my normals really changed, my routine, the things that I do day in and day out, because I am a trainer and I was focusing on certain events like powerlifting and Spartan races, and I was doing performance-based nutrition to get ready for all of that. And then, life kind of halted and I couldn't come to work. I no longer had something to look forward to or prep for. So I would say that some of my ways of meal prep really have changed over the last, 9 months. And I also think that, for me, it's been a lot of a different journey this year as far as like whole nutrition health for, hormones and gut healing, which I talk a lot about on my Instagram. But what I want to kind of discuss is some easy ways to combat the mentality that comes with meal prep. So meal prep is a tool, right? A tool to make it so that you reach your goals. Food is huge. You can exercise every day, which is great for you, get movement in. Some people I see work out 2 to 3 times a day, but then eat whatever garbage they want to eat, and therefore they're not reaching their goals. Nutrition is honestly, in my opinion, probably close to 80% of your goals, and exercise is the other end of that. So, but in all that is your mentality. So things that people have been dealing with a lot are stressful. This year has been very stressful. And so I think people turn to food. Food can be healing, but food can also be considered a drug. So for me, meal prep has really changed in the fact that my schedule's different, and I'm sure yours is too. Working from home is really hard because your kitchen is right next to you at all times. So I had a lot of clients messaging me over when COVID closed down everything saying, hey, I can't stay out of my kitchen. I can't stay out of my fridge. I'm snacking, I'm stress eating, I'm bored, so I'm eating. And so I think a big thing with that was finding ways to combat those and ask yourself, am I really hungry, or am I just bored or stressed out, or am I eating because there's nothing else to do because everything's canceled? I also think that, a lot of the places where you could order or eat out were doing, Uber Eats and delivery, and therefore food was more available more than you thought. And therefore, a lot of extra calories were being taken in when a lot of extra calories weren't being burned because the gyms were closed and exercise had really changed. So for me, I tried to get out and walk every day. I tried to work out at home, but I'm not a home workout kind of person. So kudos to you that are. So for nutrition, it took me a couple weeks to kind of dial things down. And I think for me, the best thing I could do, because I need that accountability, was tracking my food, right? So whenever I do meal prep for somebody or whenever I do meal prep for myself, I have a plan. I know about how many calories per day I want to be eating. I know that this week I might be eating higher carbohydrates and, medium protein and 25% of my calories from fats. So I need to make sure that in my house, there are foods that I can grab easily to prep into a meal, to make up, to add in for my macros, right? So for me, step one was figuring out, where does my calorie content need to be because of my changed activity, right? So calories are huge. If you are eating more calories than you are burning, you are going to store that energy. Calories are energy. That's what it is. Calories are energy. If you're not using that energy, your body stores it. If you're not eating enough, your body can also store those calories because it thinks that you're starving, right? So that's a very complex thing to talk about, and I'm not going to go off on that tangent. But anyway, your calories should be sufficient to your activity level, your age, your gender, your goals, right? Macros were important for me. I was trying to get out of a very high protein, low carb diet. So I changed mine around to a more higher carbohydrate diet and lower protein because of what I was doing at the time. Everyone's different. Most times with my clients, it's better for them to only eat the carbohydrates that they need to, around their workouts, around their exercise, especially if they're sitting at a desk all day, eat a little bit more higher protein and then healthy fats. So figure out what macros work best for you. And if you don't have an app that you can track on, or you don't have a website that's friendly, you can always reach out to one of us here at TF and we can help you with that. But that was like step one, was figuring out, what kind of foods do I even need? What macros am I trying to use to get where I want to be within my goals and how I want to look, right? Then the next step was grocery shopping and making that list to go to the grocery store. Whereas now a lot of places you can pick up food, you can order online. So that's really nice. But I personally like going to the grocery store because I love to look around at all the new things they come out with. The apps that I use, I'm just answering a question real quick. The apps that I really enjoy are one, MyFitnessPal. I used that for probably 5 years while I was bodybuilding. I did get kicked off of it for a while, so I started using this app called Lose It. That's what I'm currently using because I don't need someone to tell me how many macros. I just need something to track, and it's super easy to track on. But the MyFitnessPal is decent enough at what it's going to tell you for calories. It's not 100% with what I always agree with, but it's a great tracking app. And then I also have my Spartan girls. I think they use the Macros app or My Macros. I'll verify on that, but they also said that's very user friendly. Anything that has a good database, right? So like I said, MyFitnessPal always had a really great database for when I was eating out at restaurants. And then this Lose It app that I currently use has also been a great one. There is a website called myhealthyeater.com, which has great recommendations for your macros and calories if you're just looking for something very basic as far as like not having a coach and you just kind of want to try it on your own. I do give some of my training clients that information, myhealthyeater.com, and it should give you a ballpark of where you should be if you're really struggling with those numbers. But sometimes you need to adjust them based on activity and goals, and that sort of site might not be the best for that. That's why hiring a coach or a trainer is always a better idea. But that's going to help you get started, right? So then grocery list. Grocery list is important because if you go to the grocery store without a list or a plan or something, or even if you're ordering online, that's great too, because then you're not going to add a bunch of stuff you don't need. But when you go to the grocery store without a list, you're just going to buy things that look good, especially if you're hungry. So don't go to the grocery store hungry, and have a list. I made out my list based on things that I was trying to eat for health. And I know that there are a lot of foods that I keep as staples in my kitchen. Proteins, typically I try to stick with the more lean like less fatty proteins, because I like my fats from other plant-based things like nut butters, avocados, coconut oils, and plant-based oils, seeds, chia seeds, things like that. So I don't want to eat a lot of red meat, and I tend to eat salmon occasionally. So for me, I always have my ground extra lean turkey, a couple in the freezer, a couple on hand. I also use the Acerno's ground chicken. Before I cut out eggs, because of my doctor, I used to have egg whites by the carton, because you're getting more bang for your buck by doing that. I also used to have like Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt I loved. I can't have it right now, but I will again one day. So having those on hand are super simple. White fish. Another one that I really like when I'm in a pinch is like the Costco canned chicken. I really like that because you get almost over 7 ounces of chicken per one of those big cans. And so you could even easily split it between you and someone else. Or sometimes I'll take half of it if that's what I need for my macros, was only like 3.5 ounces, and then split the rest later. So I keep those proteins on hand. I always have something like that cooked too, because I am one of those people that if it's not cooked, I'm not going to wait for it to cook. So every, I think it's usually Sunday or Wednesday afternoon when I have free time in my schedule, and I put it in my schedule, I meal prep those things to keep those on hand. So usually always have sliced turkey deli meat, either a ground chicken or ground turkey prepped and cooked in the fridge at all times. And before, I always had hard-boiled eggs prepped, and I always had cartons of egg whites because those only take a couple of minutes to cook, and you can even, in a pinch, heat them up in the microwave. Other things are, like I said, the canned chicken when I only got like 20 minutes and I don't really want to do sliced turkey deli meat and I want to do canned chicken, boom. I always keep good, healthy, complex carbohydrates on hand. So I know that this isn't super healthy to always use a microwave, but convenience, right? And I know that, and I'm aware, but I keep those Uncle Ben's 90-second rice packets, like 10 of them at all times in my pantry. I always keep things like sweet potato cooked and prepped in the fridge, and I use my air fryer to do that so that it's like having sweet potato fries that aren't fried in fat. So sweet potatoes, rice, I always have fruits that I can have on hand, chopped, cut, and sliced. Because if you see something that you have to do any work for, you might not want to grab for it. Oh, well, the chocolate chips are easier to grab than the apple because I have to slice it. Don't make those excuses for yourself. So always have fruits and vegetables chopped and ready to go on hand, ready for you to just grab and snack on. That way you're not snacking on chips or other foods that are high in calories. Other things that I keep, I always keep my veggies prepped, okay? Because veggies are one that I don't really like raw veggies, and so I like them cooked. But like just today, I went home and I needed vegetables. Well, I haven't prepped any, so therefore I had to go into my freezer and grab something out of there because I didn't have enough time to cook my veggies the way I wanted to. So point being, always have your veggies and your fruit prepped the way you would want to eat them within minutes. Because if they're not prepped, then you're not going to want to grab them. So those are some of my complex carbohydrates that I always have, is including like rice cakes. Those are simple. Oatmeal. I love oatmeal. I probably can do oatmeal twice a day most days. Bananas, things like that. And healthy fats are like your nut butters, almonds, avocados, flaxseed, chia seed, coconut oils. And some dressings are fine. You just need to be sure that you're measuring out the serving size because fat adds up really fast in calories. So I'm just popping on here a second. What's a few ways to make chicken breast taste better and not add a ton of calories? So I went through this phase where I really got bored with chicken, and so you kind of have to figure out what kind of chicken you like the best and how you like it cooked. And my best suggestion to you is to try different things. So personally, my favorite way of doing chicken breast is the crock pot. So I'll put a couple chicken breasts in the crock pot, a little bit of water or bone broth in the bottom. And then if I'm going to do like Mexican bowls, I'll put a whole thing of salsa in there and let it heat for over 4 hours on high. So that's one of my favorites. Or if I'm not going to do a Mexican bowl and I just need chicken breast, I want to do like shredded chicken and put it in different things, then I'll put it in the crock pot with the bone broth, and then I'll put things like onion powder, garlic, Mrs. Dash seasoning, pepper, salt. I love pink salt. You can also do hot sauce like Tapatio. Mustards are really simple and low calorie. I love soy sauce, but I go for more like Bragg's liquid aminos. So it kind of depends what theme you're going with. If you're going to do baked chicken, I've been meal prepping for a client a lot, and my favorite way to do it for her is to put the chicken breast with a little bit of water in the pan and olive oil, and then I put whatever seasonings I want on top, meaning my herbs and spices, and then I take coconut oil and I spray the coconut oil on top of the chicken before I bake it close to 400 degrees for about 35 minutes. You don't want to overcook your chicken, so always have a thermometer to check it, because if you overcook it, that's how it gets dry. But keeping it tender and moist is the best way to keep your chicken for longer in the week. So baked chicken's not my favorite, but as long as you put some sort of a liquid in with it, it'll keep it tender. But I personally really like ground chicken or ground turkey, and the way I make that is typically in a pan. So I'll put about half a cup of water in there with the ground turkey, and then I put Mrs. Dash or the chicken Mrs. Dash seasoning on top, and then I just let it sit in there and I cook it until the water is gone. So basically it kind of gets like this brown crispiness on the outside of it, but it's not too dry because the water kept it from getting dry. And I meal prepped for some clients on like a cooking little show thing, and I showed them that, and they said it made a world of difference to add more liquid in with the chicken or the ground turkey while you're cooking it. So that's one of my favorite ways. I've been making a lot of the ground turkey or ground chicken meatballs, and so putting in the ketchup, as the recipe calls for, is a game changer from letting those dry out. So I usually use a low sugar ketchup or an organic ketchup to do that with. Meat, you should never really eat the meat past like 4 or 5 days, because one, it starts to lose its texture, and two, you kind of get to the point of how long has this been in here, you start questioning it, and then you don't want to be getting food-borne illness from chicken or anything like that. So it's just, all in all, I only prep my meats probably every 4 days and hold them for every 4 days. And then as far as that, so we got the grocery list, we have what foods we're thinking, we've gone to the grocery store, we've picked out everything. So next up would be how to prep the food. So I've been doing some meal prep for a client, and I'm enjoying it. It's something new. I only have one client, and it was something I wanted to do because, one, I love cooking, and two, I wanted to see what it was like to do it for somebody else who has different taste buds. And so the easiest thing I can do is tell her what I need. So she's got the groceries. When I get there, I start prepping all my meats first. So if I have chicken, if I have ground turkey, I've done shrimp, if I have a white fish, anything like that, I ask myself how I'm going to want that prepped for that meal. And some of the best ideas I can for her is, she doesn't have a meal plan. I just prep her like macro-friendly meals, and then she puts it into her macros. So that's another way of meal prepping, is just finding those recipes online. And so what I do is I prep the food, like the meats first, and then I get the rice going, or the potatoes, or her carbohydrate, and then I focus on the vegetables. And I usually do my veggies in the air fryer almost always. If not, I bake them. And when I bake them, I put them on a sheet pan with olive oil in the pan, lots of different seasonings, and then I spray the top of them with like another coating of olive oil instead of butter, and then a little bit of water in the pan as well to keep them from getting dried out, but you kind of want them crispy when they're baked. So like Brussels sprouts are really good like that, broccoli, but too much water and they're gonna get soggy. I don't like steamed vegetables, so I like mine a little crispy and crunchy, and that's how I make her baked vegetables. If not, they go in the air fryer for about 15 minutes, and I make sure about 3 or 4 minutes I'm shaking them around, moving them around, mixing it up, chopping them, whatever needs to be done, to make the vegetables get less soggy throughout the week. So for her, I've done things like, also I have some recipes that I'm happy to share, and they're actually on the TF page, like the green chili chicken enchiladas, the turkey or chicken meatballs. I also have some like a quinoa cold or hot salad. So I have a lot of those meals on there. I have a client who actually looks on, I think it's Skinny Taste, and she finds macro-friendly meals. She brings them into her appointment with me. I add them to her meal plan and compensate for the rest of her day, how I see fit for her snacks. So always look online. There's so much online to like look up new ideas and recipes. Don't get bored with your food. Try to find things that make you excited about meal prep. Speaking of that, I'm a huge sweets person, and so there are a lot of recipes on the TF page that I've given the studio that I prefer to go for when I'm craving chocolate or peanut butter. One of my favorite go-tos for this whole COVID experience was my banana protein muffins. They have like, I think 8 ingredients in them, and per muffin it's 75 calories. And they're basically banana, oatmeal, cinnamon, egg whites, some baking powder or baking soda, and then protein powder and oats. And I make them every week. I prep probably 2 sheet pans of them, and I bring 6 of them at a time in the little meal prep containers to work, so that I never have an excuse to go grab something from Starbucks. I never have an excuse to go hungry at work. I keep those on hand because if you warm them up for 10 seconds, they're a great little treat, and they're only 75 calories. So sometimes my macros will allow me to have 2 to 4 a day. And it makes me feel like I'm actually eating muffins. I also love my Reese's Energy Bites, which have peanut butter in them. So they're going to have a little bit higher calories per bite. About 150 calories because of the peanut butter and the honey. But those are nice. Like I had a mom client in the morning. She was so busy with her kids that she would have 2 of those energy bites between her workout and getting the kids situated for the day. And she's like, oh, and it would keep me from like getting ravenous, and it would keep me from needing something sweet or feeling like I was deprived. She's like, that's perfect. It holds me over till, either lunch or even my mid-morning snack. So that recipe is also on the TF page. I'm happy to share that as well. They're basically chocolate chips, honey, oats, peanut butter. Sometimes you can put chia seeds in them, and then a little bit of protein powder, and you roll them up and you put them in the fridge or the freezer. They take 10 minutes. They're no bake energy bites. Protein pancakes are one of my favorite go-tos for when I'm having a sweet tooth. The Kodiak cakes is great, but since I'm gluten-free now, I do the pancake mix that we used here at the TF open house. I do a low sugar syrup or a sugar-free syrup. If I'm not doing that because I've stayed away from artificial sweeteners for about a month, I was doing I take blueberries and warm them up, like frozen blueberries, and warm them up in the microwave for 20-30 seconds and drizzle it on top like syrup. So therefore you're getting actually fresh natural sugars as syrup. So protein pancakes, sometimes I put peanut butter on top. Some of my other favorites are just doing things like taking a chocolate protein powder and putting it in almond milk and doing a hot chocolate at night. I used to do that for a nightcap. I love doing my oatmeal bowls. So I'll do a half a cup of oatmeal, peanut butter, whatever protein powder I'm feeling. If I don't want to do that, then I'll add in fresh berries, mix in a little bit of agave or stevia. Sometimes I even put a couple chocolate chips, dark cocoa chocolate chips on top if my macros allow it, because it keeps me from grabbing cookies. It keeps me from grabbing things that I feel like, oh, I'm missing out on that. Well, no, I'm not missing out on that. There's just always something better you can choose. Sweet cravings typically come when we're deficient in something. So finding a way to get over that hump of wanting something when really it's just that you're bored or deficient, and finding a distraction or finding something else that's better for you is going to also keep you from grabbing more snacky foods as the day goes on, because the more sugar you have, the more you crave it. So just be mindful of that, and always be tracking the food when you have goals to reach, because if you're not tracking and you don't know how much you're eating or overeating, how are you going to know how to adjust your calories or adjust your meals? So with meal prep, I think my favorite thing used to be that I would take there's options. I would take 2 hours on Sunday and I would prep all my meats, all my veggies, and all my carbs, and I would lay out different meals. Sometimes it would be something like ground turkey, sweet potato, and asparagus. Sometimes it would be like shrimp, rice, like a stir fry with Bragg's liquid aminos. And I'd prep out different meals because I was someone that had to go into an office, and that worked for me, and I couldn't come home on my break. Now that I'm someone who, just like some of you, either work from home or come home in the middle of the day, or you're at home for lunch, now my favorite thing to do is to just prep foods that I know will make good meals and put those meals together based on how my breakfast and dinner are going to look. So that's the easiest part for me right now. Like I told you, I always have what I need on hand, so I can throw it in and mix it into a bowl or make a sandwich or whatever I need to do, because if you don't have those things, then you're just going to resort to whatever's in the cupboard. If you have children or a spouse that doesn't want to be mindful of what they're eating and they have very snacky foods in the house, another suggestion is to have maybe your own cupboard or have a separate area for their stuff, because you have goals to attain and they want to support you, but maybe they're not sure how to. And in doing that, it's hard for you to feel like, well, I want something out of the snacky bin because I'm at home working and I don't have anything prepped. So making sure that you have stuff meal prepped is always your best way to be prepared. So let's see. Is there any questions that I'm triggering you guys to talk about? I feel like sometimes I'll just ramble, but I can keep talking. I'm trying to think as far as like tips and tricks. I think some of my favorite things I've been posting in my group. I have a challenge team and we have a group text. So like if I come across something at the grocery store, I like to post it on my Instagram stories. I send it to my group challengers, and just having those ideas. Another thing for me was over COVID, I was really bad at drinking water. So a lot of clients have asked me, how do you get your water intake? Do you get bored? I said, well, it's always good. I always have like containers like this and track how many I drink a day. I try to drink things like BCAAs, put stuff in my water like fresh lemon or cucumber or fresh berries to drink more water throughout the day, because if you're dehydrated, you're also going to have more cravings. So water is also important, as well as your prepped food. Okay, so when you mentioned adding protein powder to things, do you mean like protein powder from a protein shake? Okay, so when I was in bodybuilding, I had this obsession with finding foods, snacks, whatever, that made me feel like I wasn't just eating chicken and rice all day long. I didn't want to do that. And so I went through this part of my life where I found a lot of ways to put protein powder in things, because whey protein or vegan protein or even like a casein protein, they're all flavored, right? And so I have a company that I go through that has several different crazy flavors. And it's just a way to add in protein when I'm eating a really high protein diet. So you should always be getting protein directly from the source. But at the end of the day, if there's like, and I'm like, no, I want something chocolatey. Okay, well, I better find something that is a little bit more healthy and a little bit more in line with my macros than actually just giving in and resulting to something that's full of sugar that I'm just going to want again in an hour, right? Something that's filling. Well, something that's filling is protein. Protein keeps you satiated, keeps you fuller longer. And I knew that I could find ways to bake with protein powder, just like you would bake with cocoa and flour and sugar. And so when I first came across anything that made sense to me, it was the protein pancakes that they were making, the Kodiak cakes, the pre-made. And I was like, okay, well, that's one way to do it. What's some other ways to do it? So yes, I use whey protein powder. I used to love vegan protein powder, but I can no longer have it. And I have different flavors. So at my house, I have French toast flavored whey protein. I have cookies and cream, which has little bits of cookies in it, which is, it has the macros on the back. I'm always following that, but it's a protein powder. I also have just a regular hot cocoa chocolate protein powder. And then in the past, I've had birthday cake. I've had all these different flavors, and it's just from whey protein. And when you pick a protein, you want to make sure that you're using something that isn't high in a bunch of sugar and carbs, because then you're questioning, is this a protein powder or is this a sweet treat? So you want to look anywhere for 1 scoop between 20 to 30 grams of protein, probably no more than 2 or 3 grams of fat per scoop, and probably no more than 5 grams of carbs. So I like to use companies that use things like stevia and more natural flavorings, of course. But protein powder, because I'm a sweet person, I have sweet tooth all the time, I use protein powder to use in a lot of things. And that's why I put it in my oatmeal. Yes, I can make shakes out of it, but I'm not someone who likes to drink my calories. I rather chew my food. I put them in protein pancakes. I put them in my muffins. I put them in the Reese's Energy Bites. And, that's what works for me. I'm not saying it's for everybody, but it is better than grabbing something full of sugar, processed, refined white sugar, because it's addictive and you're not filling in and out in 30 minutes. You're going to be like, okay, I'm hungry again. Whereas protein powder is very filling and satiating so that you're fuller longer. So yes, that is what I'm talking about. And I'm just talking about, these are tips and tricks, right? It's not perfect, but it's a way to get you somewhere. And I know a lot of people tend to try my snacks. I won't even tell them really what's in it in the beginning. And then they're like, oh my gosh, that's so good. What's in that? You wouldn't even know the difference. A lot of my Spartan sisters always ask me to cook pancakes for Spartan breakfast. And it's like, to me, it's so simple and easy because I've been doing this way of my life for the last, 7-8 years. But it's actually really eye-opening for people that didn't know there were better, healthier options out there. So yes, protein powder is something that I use daily. And it's just simply because I like sweets. For salt, sometimes I go through phases, especially lately with a lot of the holistic nutrition I've been doing, where I use a lot of pink salt. So pink salt to me is really good for my adrenal system, and my adrenals really like when I have pink salt put on my foods. I do not have high blood pressure or any sort of issue with salt, so therefore the more natural the better, and I like the pink Himalayan salt, so I use that, and I tend to put that on things like cauliflower rice, cucumbers, any of my chicken really, because then therefore it's better than me grabbing the tortilla chips that also have salt on them that sound really good, right? So it's just finding those macro-friendly meals. Like I told you guys a little bit ago about the enchiladas and how to prep those. They're on the TF page. They are pretty high in protein because you use things like Greek yogurt and chicken breast, and you're using like a salsa verde. So it's just picking better ingredients to make foods out of. I also like to keep things prepped to make what I call everything but the kitchen sink bowls, because I use things that are more like one simple macro, meaning like rice is mainly carbohydrates. Chicken is mainly just protein. Peanut butter has some protein in it and a little bit of carbs, but nuts and things like that are more just fats. And that way I know like, oh, I need healthy fat, I'll just add some avocado, or oh, I need some protein, I'll just add some chicken. And then I weigh everything out. I did not say that in the beginning, but I weigh everything out. A lot of my clients use tablespoons and cups, which is great too. But for me, I've just noticed that for a faster way of doing my meals, I weigh everything. So meat in ounces, most carbs in grams, and vegetables in grams. And then like that way with my peanut butter, I don't have to worry about missing out on macros or overdoing it on my macros. So I weigh out my peanut butter as well. And that's how I prep my meals. I will get like the meal prep containers from Amazon, and I'll prep out several meals or my muffins or whatever, and I put those in the meal prep containers so that they're ready, easy to go. They fit in my purse simply. So those are just ways of doing that. For one of my clients that I've cooked for in the past, they basically told me that if their vegetables and fruits weren't cut and put in baggies, that it wouldn't happen. So even doing simple things like that or putting them in containers is great. Frozen fruits and vegetables there's nothing wrong with them. And like I just went on vacation, and I knew that when I got home I wasn't going to have enough time to run to the store and prep my vegetables, so I grabbed things like my cauliflower rice. I grabbed a bag of Brussels sprouts, which instead of steam freshing them in the bag, I will throw them in my air fryer. I grabbed a thing of sweet potato fries that they called sweet potato rotini, but it's really just crinkle cut sweet potatoes. Threw those in the air fryer yesterday for 20 minutes. Those were really good with some sea salt on top. That way, that's simple. I have no excuse, right? So keeping frozen options on hand, keeping your meats, vegetables, and stuff for the next 5 days prepped, cooked, that's leaving you no excuse. Putting things in baggies and containers to take with you, that's no excuse. You can go as simple as we have ostrom sticks here and protein bars. You could take a shake in a blender bottle, so all you have to do is add water. I can prep my oatmeal really easy. Like if I put my oatmeal in a container and I put the peanut butter in there and then I put the protein in the baggie, I just take that on the go. I've also done where I go to Starbucks and grab plain oatmeal and then add everything I want to add to it. There's really no excuse for I don't have options, because what I really do appreciate traveling, and I notice this, is a lot more places are offering things like cooked hard-boiled eggs, meat sticks, options to do like a sandwich, options to do salads. There's little deli areas in most convenience stores or deli areas in like Safeway, Fred Meyer, where you can pick up something. And as you get going and start weighing out and seeing portion sizes, you'll be able to be more mindful of when you're eating out how much of what you should be having. But it's never going to be perfect, but I just want you guys to think about ways that you could set yourself up at home, in your own home, with your family, for a successful week. And don't get yourself down if there's one mishap or you messed up on some meal or you didn't eat the right portion size. It's okay. It's never going to be perfect. It's just making those steps, because I started doing that 10 years ago. And 10 years ago, I started doing that, and now it's like second nature. It's just part of my lifestyle. It's just part of the way I live my life. I wake up and I'm hungry and I want breakfast. A couple hours later, I know it's time for lunch. I don't have to think about it. My metabolism tells me, and all in that is meal prep, planning ahead, and, finding different ways to keep things entertaining and keep your food fun and flavorful. So those are most of my main tips. I have a lot of clients who ask me things here and there, so I'm happy to answer questions. I still have about 5 minutes left if you guys have any questions that you want to type in, and I'll try to answer. I could talk on this for hours. I don't need to bore you with that, but I'm happy to answer anything that you guys might have thought about while I was talking. Yeah, let's see. I'm going to look through these really quick. And I think I answered all those. So Amy and I have decided, over COVID, we were posting a lot about different recipes to do while you're at home. I personally love to bake, and I know Amy really likes salty foods. So her and I were trying to give you guys some great ideas to do that were healthier options for wanting something specific. And that's where the part of me that comes out where the macro-friendly foods really interest me. And I like to share recipes. I like to give out information. I think for me right now, my life has gone a different route, but I'm still tracking macros. I'm still tracking my calories, because if I want to get to a point where I want to prep for something or do a show or do some sort of event that does come up after some of this COVID stuff goes away, I want to be able to know where I'm at. Because if you don't know where you started or whereabouts you've been at, then how do you adjust those numbers and your meals to get to a place of, change and progress? So just being mindful and tracking just keeps you mindful of how much you're eating per day right now, and then you can change that in the future. So the apps that I think I may have said this, and there's one that I'm still I can't remember the name of it, but MyFitnessPal is my favorite one to track on, and that one will give you a somewhat good idea of calories, but not perfect. That's why I suggested the myhealthyeater.com to get a better percentage of macros. And then the Lose It app is the one that I've been using for the last 2 or 3 years, basically since MyFitnessPal kicked me off, and I was like, well, I have to create a whole new database. So yeah, Lose It. It's an orange app. It's an orange app that looks like a scale. And it basically tracks food, and it's got a good database of information. So like there's odd things where I've been at a restaurant and I'll type in like so-and-so, like, okay, Panera bread sandwich with this, without that, add this, and it'll actually pop up. It's never going to be exactly perfect, but it's a great, close enough way to track. Things like I do sushi quite often, so I found ways to track that as well. So looking up certain sushi restaurants and kind of like, oh, rainbow roll, and kind of just getting an idea of what your intake is. So yeah, the Lose It app is the one I'm using right now, my Fitness Pal. And then I think there's one that the girls told me that's called My Macros app. Macros, something like that. So there's a ton of apps out there. You just got to find one that's like most friendly for you. Otherwise you won't use it. Figure out your calories, figure out your macros, get that put into a tracking device, start weighing your food, start portioning out your carbs, making sure that every meal has protein in it and that there's some sort of healthy mix of either carbs and protein or fats and carbs or whatever you're doing, to make sure that you're not just eating sugar that's going to be digested and you're going to be hungry in an hour, so balanced meals, grocery shopping with a list, making sure that your list has things on it that you need for your goals. Is that way you won't be grabbing snacky foods that will take you away from getting out of your macros. Prepping your meals either all at once or, the night before, or prepping certain foods that you can throw into meals as your day goes on. Meal prep containers, meal prep baggies, things like that are all going to help you with tools for success in meal prep. Other than that, I'm just like having this urge to like show you how I cook things, but obviously that's not the platform I'm on today. I did explain how to cook some meats the way I like it, veggies the way I like it. I did explain that frozen vegetables are fine. My favorite way to throw frozen vegetables in a meal is the air fryer because it keeps them from getting soggy. Having your fruits cut up, chopped up, easy to grab. Like in the morning, some people are like, I don't have time for breakfast. Well, get like pre-made shakes or prep your breakfast the night before, like I said I did with the oatmeal, or I do frozen gluten-free waffles in the toaster oven sometimes. Whatever is going to be easiest for me to get out the door in 5 minutes the next morning, and I plan the night before so that I know exactly how it's going to be in the morning and there is no excuse for me to miss breakfast. So what are some good protein breakfasts? Okay, so I actually can't do eggs and I can't do egg whites right now, and I hate it because I love those things. So high protein breakfast ideas that aren't eggs or egg whites. So my big go-to lately, like when I was on vacation, I buy the uncured turkey bacon from Safeway. Costco also has a decent brand, so it's lower in fats, higher in protein, because turkey is one of your highest protein meats. So uncured turkey bacon is one of my favorites, and I get the Signature Select one from Safeway or the Costco one. Jenny O's okay, but I don't love the texture as much. And then things like putting peanut butter and protein powder in either a smoothie or my oatmeal. Greek yogurt, plain non-fat Greek yogurt, add your own fruit, or the Dan & Light and Fit Greek yogurt. I have a lot of clients on that because it's pre-made and it has low carbs compared to a lot of other yogurts. Be mindful of that. Or if you can have dairy, which like regular yogurt's fine too, just go for a light yogurt like a Yoplait Light. Cottage cheese, a lot of my clients really like 1% cottage cheese with some pineapple in it. If you're vegetarian, there's things like you could do I had a client that was doing garbanzo beans with like a vegan sausage, like a scramble with some veggies and mixing it into a pan. She was doing something like that because she was on more of a vegan-based, plant-based diet. Of course, hummus is like chickpeas hummus, things like that. Those are all great for higher protein options. Edamame, vegan protein powder. So just finding those things that you like texture wise and meal prep wise for breakfast, getting those done ahead of time. So I do have to take a nutrition client, so I got to get back to work. But I hope that I was helpful. We're going to save this and put it on YouTube. So thank you guys for coming to our first informational video. Please reach out to me. My handle is Miranda Emily Fitness if you have any questions. If you can't find the recipes on the TF page, you can always shoot the TF page a message, and I will get that to you as soon as possible. So thank you guys for being with me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your afternoon.